Good afternoon. My name is Robert Sinn. I'm here today to speak with the CEO of a junior gold miner that um, I believe has a lot of upside potential still left. And this company is Banyan Gold. I think that they've had a transformative year, a transformative few years, to be quite honest. And I'm pleased today to be with the CEO of the company, Tara Christie. So Tara, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm great, Robert. Thanks for having me and getting an update on where we're going with Banyan.
Yeah, so I've covered Banyan since I want to say early 2017, and it's been such a pleasure to watch the evolution. We've been through some meager times, some thin times. In fact, in my notes, I made sure to recall, I believe it was 3 years ago, August 2018, when the company I think only had 500,000 in its treasury, maybe even less. The market cap was about 4 million. Obviously, that was a major bottom in the gold mining sector. I think Banyan shares were 4 cents or 4.5 cents or something at the time. So here we are today. Nice close in the market today, trading 30 cents. The market cap is more like 50 million or so dollars in Canada. So it's been a good 3 years. A lot of progress has been made, and you made a lot of progress in the last few months, even including making a large financing, a large raise of capital. So I'd love to hear more about that and what's going on right now with the company.
Great. I appreciate that, Robert. It has been transformative. I'm looking forward to giving you an update on it. You know, that financing right before we had that little bit of a slump in the mining stock was, well timed. And people kind of ask, well, why such a big financing? Well, one of the things that's plagued us the last few years is only raising enough money for the program for the year and then counting on just results to really drive the market. So this year we had some fabulous shareholders who all wanted into Banyan. And so we took $16 million because that funds us for very significant programs to move forward our Aurmac project for this year and next, and gets us into 2023. So hopefully, Banyan shareholders will benefit from that market overhang being removed. There's no warrants either left in the company. So, a pretty, I think, a great start. I kind of look at now, September of this year, when most people are shutting down, I kind of look at it as our new start. We're ramping up to 3 drills. We're getting planned for a big program next year. We're hiring people, which, as other companies are slowing down for the fall season, we should be able to get some of the best. So I'll share my screen and, sort of show you some of the reasons why people should continue to invest in Banyan and to follow the story, because, really, we're in a fabulous location. Hopefully you can see this image. Had a little slow time with internet today, so I might have to give it a moment every once in a while, and I apologize for that. This image here of our front cover is Aurmac. The airstrip deposit is in this front part, the green with the old trenches, and in the foreground, that's where Bernie Craft took out that 16 tons of 2-ounce high-grade material. But this area outlines that 774,000 ounces. You can see the main highway going to Mayo, Victoria Gold's access road in this image, and the power station, and then in the distance, there's Oryx Hill. So, fabulous infrastructure and pretty moderate topography. I'm a junior. I'm really excited about this project, so I will be making forward-looking statements because we've got lots to look forward to in the next 2 years, and we're planning for it. So, our Aurmac project, we believe, really has that multi-million ounce potential. And I used to think that 2 million ounces was kind of the threshold that you needed to be economic in the Yukon or for majors to look at. I think it's now 3 to 5 million for majors to make the type of investment in or to advance for a junior to take a project forward. Victoria Gold had 2 million ounces in reserves when they financed and built their Eagle mine right beside us. So, that's kind of where I'm saying now we need to get, and it really will be a key catalyst for us when we achieve that. Our management team, we very very efficiently spend our exploration dollars. That initial 900,000 ounce resource was just $2 per ounce. I think that we're really well positioned now, and we're continuing to add ounces, I think at $5 to $6 per ounce, very efficient explorers, and well set up for drilling late into the fall and then starting again next spring. Being next to two mines, there's a lot of benefit to that. How many mines have been found in the shadow of other head frames? Mining districts generally are districts. The first discovery isn't necessarily the best. I actually believe that the Mayo Mining District, will produce for the next 20, 30 years between Victoria Gold and what is being found in the district. It is very highly mineralized, and despite 100 years of exploration, we're making new discoveries, and our power line is a testament to that. We're right beside Alexco, and the other real important thing about being beside two mines is that they were recently permitted. In this jurisdiction, you can actually permit a mine. The First Nation understands mining, has businesses that depend on it. That's hugely important. The infrastructure is all already here. You can see it in that image. And when we get a little further on, I'm going to show you our interactive tour, all on our website, but I want to be able to show you where we're moving. We're going to really try to harness the new technology so that people can visualize everything as we move along. So as we get drill holes, we can add them into our model, and people can start to envision how quickly this is growing and the potential of the project.
Hey, Tara, let me interrupt you for a quick second there, because I think this is an important point to make about the infrastructure. Like if you go to a project in like Southern Arizona, you can stay in a hotel or a motel. You can drive to the project or the mine, and in an hour or less, you have cell phone service the whole time. There's power lines all over the place, and that gives a state like that a huge advantage. One of the things I'm not sure many people know about Mayo and Banyan is that this area of the Yukon is a lot closer to something like Southern Arizona than the Yukon, and you actually have. It's called power line zone, because there's a power line that runs right through it. Is that correct?
A brand new one that was just energized this January. So there was an old power line there, and as part of the stimulus funding last year, the government built a new line with twice the capacity right across our property. So it's not even an old power line, which is pretty great, and it has additional capacity. It's only been energized to half of its built capacity. So and cell phone service. We use cellular modems for our camps because we have cell phone service at both our camp locations, and we have a backup of satellite, so we have some redundancy as well, because internet's so important for your crews and communicating with home. But that's a huge advantage to have cell phone service right there, and that's they're even going to be putting fiber into Mayo. Victoria Gold actually has a fiber link. So, we have the potential to not only have cellular, but also fiber as we move this project along. So pretty great jurisdiction. It's not like what most people think about when they think about the Yukon and remote. We don't have to fly in. That's why we can safely drill into the fall, is because we have those main highways. We're just a 35-minute drive to the community where there's a nursing station and all the infrastructure that you would need. Full service airport at Mayo as well. So,
and just one more point I want to make about that, because in the mining industry right now, I'm hearing from a lot of CEOs that they've got laborers that are walking off jobs. They can't stay away from their family or for too long, or they don't want to rough it in a camp in the middle of the nowhere for 3 or 4 weeks. So not only does it give you a cost advantage in terms of the cost of drilling and carrying out various activities, it gives you an advantage in terms of attracting labor. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's a short drive to Whitehorse in the big picture of things. We don't have to worry about float planes coming in or getting fogged out, or helicopters, and all those transportation challenges. We even have people that live in the community and drive out on a daily basis, work an 8-hour day and drive home. It allows us to have much more flexible schedules because we don't have to have big crew rotations. With a road, it's not a huge incremental cost. If you have to have 1 or 2 people leaving, it allows us to have very flexible rotations. And that's also a benefit of being small. So that infrastructure really is fabulous. And we really had very little turnover this year compared to many of our, we hired in February and managed to get some great people, a lot of Yukoners that we've planned so that they could have, work and then also time off. And we worked at flexible schedules for people. And so that means our retention has been really good. And people now know we're funded for 2 years, which is really different. So we are able to say, yes, you have a job, we know, for the next 2 years. So, we're giving people training opportunities and trying to make sure that we're moving people in our organization as well, which is also unique. Exploration that's only in the summer is generally a 3 to 4 month job at best. Sometimes it's only 1. So it gives us an advantage. And our people have such great connections. Our leadership team, we're used to working in the Yukon. We've got lots of connections to good people. You can see in our board, I've talked about this slide many times, that we're connected with both Victoria Gold and Alexco and our advisors. And I know there's lots of familiar people on our webinar today. So thank you for tuning back in again. So in that financing, we had great support. We had to choose who our shareholders would be. We had quite a lot of interest in the financing. And in order to kind of meet the thresholds that lots of funds have, minimums that they need and minimum amounts of versus your daily trading volumes and all kinds of criteria. We were really pleased to bring in Franklin Gold and Precious Metals, a couple other smaller institutions. Also, a Cisco Development maintained their position, but cut back a little bit to allow us to accommodate a few of these other big names. And Victoria Gold, of course, increased their investment. So now they're 12% shareholders with the warrants that they exercised earlier. And Alexco's still at 7%. So great support and validation by miners. Coeur, with their 17% interest in Victoria Gold, is bringing an interesting dynamic to the area about the potential of people looking at Victoria. And they all have to drive right through our property to get to Victoria and Alexco. So anybody that goes on a site tour for either of those companies hears about Banyan. And of course, we just did a site tour ourselves last week, and really easy to bring people up to Whitehorse and then fly or drive to Mayo. And our site's just a quick drive from the airport, so makes those site visits a lot easier. You'll probably notice, and you probably noticed in the SETI filings, that I put in almost, between my husband and myself, almost $500,000 in at 35 cents in the flow through of that financing. So I wanted to maintain my position, which, is just under around 5.5%. So, it's pretty important to me that a CEO puts their money where their mouth is. That means that in the last 2 years, we've put in over $850,000. So pretty heavily vested for me to make my money through my share price. So did that little sell-off here in August scare me? No, because I know we have so much runway with $17 million in the till to really add value for our shareholders and advance this project. So I don't know, did you have any questions about the financing, Robert?
Yeah, I think it's always good to know who has those shares, and are they in good hands, or is that paper just going to come out right into the market in 4 months?
We were very selective. We didn't take any of the 4-month flow through funds in this financing. The main 15 million, there were only 6 subscription agreements. So a very tight financing, all people that are long holders and believe in the long-term value of growth. That was one of the advantages of this financing, was that we got to pick who we had filled it. And you notice that after even our share price, there was that big dip in the market when all of the mining companies were really hit, and we continued to be able to close our financing because we had good names that actually believed in the story. And I thought it was and no warrants in the financing. A lot of people right now are giving out warrants right now. And so we thought we got good value for our other shareholders. Yes, it was dilutive, but at a good price with no warrants. and good people. So, that maiden resource, remember in May of 2020 when we put out that 900,000 ounces, and you can see the infrastructure in that image from when we put out the resource and the pits there. And I'm going to show you them in 3D a little later on. And just to remind people of the analog that we have with Victoria Gold, the graded Arab deposit is 0.63, recoveries of 74%, low strip ratio, 1-to-1, very similar to what we're seeing here. And just, they've shown that project is economic with their cash flows. They've shown that they're meeting their recoveries are on track. So I think that bodes well for us. We're the same age of mineralization and pretty right beside them. Infrastructure in this area is great, but it's even going to get better. The Yukon government in the early part of this year committed $63 million to upgrade the roads and the highways near us and the access to Victoria Gold. That's going to start next year. And that money will benefit not only Victoria Gold and Alexco, but us as well. And that new power line that was just built, that's fabulous infrastructure. The cell phone network and the fiber that's getting put into Mayo will only benefit as well. So just to recap what we've drilled, 2020, we drilled 10,000 meters primarily at airstrip. This year, we're around 18,000 meters today. We'll drill 30,000 plus this year before we take a small seasonal break. And then we plan for 30,000 meters plus next year. So, if we put out a resource in Q2 of 2022, we're going to have a substantial amount of drilling. That'll be 40 kilometers added in drilling when we put out that resource. And that makes sense. It's a natural time. We're going to take a seasonal break. We'll be able to get our assays back and then put that resource together. Airstrip, it remains open to the east and the west, and I'll show you that in the 3D model as well. We focused on drilling it out last year, extended it 300 meters to the west and 125 meters down dip into the east with good, strong, long intercepts. We're pretty excited, though, about the growth potential and the speed of growing power line from what we found last year, that 68 meters, and just, how large this mineralization footprint seems to be a power line. And that's really, we knew we tapped into something both with that hole and then that trail that we put into Oryx Hill last year, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Our results, this is a couple weeks back, we put out results and we're continuing to expand that. And you'll see this better in the model once we get there. But, good long intercepts, some 1 gram material, 41 meters of 1.39, lots of visible gold. I encourage people to go to our website, look at the model, look at the visible gold library that we've published there. And also we publish all of the assays and the color locations of our holes so that people can download them and do their own analysis of what we're having. We're totally transparent in what we're doing. I think that will bode well for analysts being able to keep up to the story and understand how quickly this is growing. And I've said it before, we think this area between Airstrip, Powerline, and Oryx Hill has the potential to host that 3 to 5 million ounces that we think that a major mining company or a junior needs to have before a project could move forward to the next stage. And so far, everything remains open. We're still waiting for those drill holes that we put in Oryx Hill. We have some of that historic RAB drill holes from Oryx Hill, as well as our own diamond drilling from last year to guide us, which we think it has the potential to have a near surface resource there. That's the right button here. So now we're going to try and load up these models for you and the VR overviews. So, here's just what the topography looks like. Here's Eagle over here and Victoria or Alexco just to the north of us, and our property here at Oryx Aurmac. We've got the airstrip zone, the power line zone, and the Oryx Hill. You can see the topography, and you can go on our website and zoom around and click on all of these. I'm not going to zoom into all of them just because it does tend to take a lot of bandwidth. And then we're going to look just at the overview here. So, here's the airstrip zone. Eagle's just over here. You can see it's pretty flat-lying topography. Our camp is located right here near the airstrip zone. And then we've got another camp that's just down this little side road, that main highway. Let's zoom in and take a look at the camp. You can see there's the camp, and you can see the long line of drill core boxes that we have all along the old airstrip. There's that new power line that just went in. You can see they put in quite a few roads to get into it. It's pretty, and there's the power line resources is just over here. And then we can turn around and look up at Oryx Hill. And it just gives you a sense of the scale of how big this area is and the potential here. And the property also is amenable to potentially building a mine. So I want to zoom in on a little bit more here. Here's just looking down from Oryx Hill back down at Powerline and the airstrip zone. You can see links to our videos here, as well as zoom in and see the powers. If you want to see the substation, you can look at that there. We're actually drilling right around the substation right now. I was just up at site a couple days ago, and it was great to be able to see that drilling that close to the infrastructure. So get used to, and just a little bit different than the PowerPoint. So it takes a little bit of getting used to this VR tour. So, but it is the new way. I've had more people ask, what is it? Show me the property. Again, here's Oryx Hill. Show me what you're doing. It makes it more real to be able to say, oh, here's the drill on Oryx Hill, and then turn it around and say, okay, look at Oryx Hill. Look at how, you can look down the road. You can see all the area where that big soil anomaly is that we've been testing.
Tara, I think it's an important point to make about the power line zone is that the drill program that you've been carrying out and you're still carrying out is probably the most straightforward drill program I've ever seen in gold mining in my life. You are just drilling in a rectangular shape essentially, and you're hitting gold pretty much everywhere you step out. And some investors get caught up on grade, and they want to see 2, 3, 4 grams or those big 30-gram intercepts. And while those are nice and those definitely help to add value, mines are built on scale, and the biggest, mines in the world are not high grade. They're 0.5 grams, 0.6 grams per ton, maybe as high as a gram for some of the best ones. But when you're hitting gold over a strike extent of over 1,000 meters, and then you're also expanding it out 400 or so, 500 meters wide, and it's 200 meters depth. It's at an average grade of 0.62 grams or 0.65 grams. Suddenly you're talking about many millions of ounces, and obviously that's a back of the napkin sort of estimate on my part. But even if you cut that in half, it's still a very large amount of gold. And when you're talking about open pit, near surface, good infrastructure in the area, it would not be inconceivable to process this sort of ore for $10 a ton, maybe even less, who knows. And when you're talking about 0.6 or so grams per ton gold, and a gram is about $60 US, you can do the math. It could be a very profitable mining operation. Now, obviously, it would require a significant capital investment to get that going, and permitting and yada yada yada. But we're talking about the big picture, vision here, and the big picture vision is substantial, to say the least.
And that's, let's just look at Powerline for that. This target, 129,000 ounces in that pit, and you can just see how much we've expanded that mineralized footprint with the drilling that we've done this year alone. 100 meter space grid. Those are big step outs. And, we have a lot more holes that we've drilled, particularly over here, that aren't in this model yet. But as we get results, we're going to be adding them in to this model. And then, let's zoom out. And because from Powerline, you can get out to Oryx Hill. And, Oryx Hill is very exciting. You can see there's that line of holes that, it's a little sparse in between the two, so we don't know that they're connected yet. There's that line of holes, which I showed you before that we drilled in 2020. And then all these holes are the ones that we're waiting for results on. But, from here to here is 2.5 kilometers. So, that's a very long strike length. Here, these at power line, the north-south length is about 1.2 kilometers. So remember that power line, the original resource, was in 250 meters by 250 meters. We now have 1.2 kilometers this way. We've got about 800 meters this way, and going much further now with the drilling that we're putting beyond the substation over here. So that's why there's the potential for this to grow so very quickly, and that's why we'll put all this information up so people can start to visualize that. I think that's going to help us as we tell the story here, is using more visualization techniques to show people. I can hardly wait to get these holes. We're hoping for them, mid-September, the latest. And then we'll be able to, and the nice thing about our long season is we can wait for our results and then design where we're going to go and drill next. We don't have to commit to that. We know we can get up to Oryx Hill for quite a late in the season. The limiting factor there becomes water, which we're working hard to get ourselves set up now in this time in the summer, so that we can really drill throughout the fall and into the early spring. We did it last year, started February 15th. We learned a lot. You can see that resource and just look at how large of an area now the drilling covers. I look at these models and I go, wow, we've really advanced this a lot. So I encourage people to pull this up on their own screens and spend some time. The other really exciting thing is, and this isn't yet complete, but you can see some of the visible gold that we're seeing. We're going to start linking it to the holes so that people can see where we're finding and what it looks like, which is a good thing from a heap leach perspective.
Tara, I couldn't help but notice on one of the more recent slides, I think it was the Oryx Hill slide, at the top, it said 3 to 5 million ounces. And I don't recall you ever mentioning or putting in a slide the word 5 million ounces. So I know that.
Yeah.
What?
That's been in our presentation for a while, the potential for 3 to 5 million ounces in this area. Okay. That's what we think we see, that's could be more. I wouldn't go any higher than that yet, but let us hit that first threshold.
We've been talking for the last year as 2 million ounces is the big goal. And where do you feel confident that you're at now with all the results that you've seen so far?
I think we're really on track. I can't comment without a resource estimate, but you can see in those images where look at the size of power line and where do you think we are and what's its long-term potential. I think it has a lot of potential for growth, and we're seeing that. So there's smarter people than me that have been looking at this, and some analysts have been looking at it, and our QP will ultimately tell us how many ounces are here. But I think that we're well on track to hit that goal. That is our goal, to get plus 2 million ounces for our next resource, and Q2 2022.
All right. And, what about Oryx Hill? So I read an analyst report, I think it was from Sprott, and the analyst was pretty optimistic, about Oryx Hill. Can you give us any more about what you're seeing there? And you said, mid-September, how many holes, do you think that you'll have out by then?
Well, we drilled 18 holes at Oryx Hill, so you can see them here, the green dots, these old RAB drill holes from the 90s, which had some historic results that we're using to guide our exploration. Really showed that there is a mineralization in the top 40 meters. They were on average 40 meters deep, and we've got grids of holes which show that are already over Victoria Gold's cutoff grade of 0.15, and large areas where we can see the RAB holes are already showing that the top 40 meters over 0.4 on average. So That's great. That's even better. That's way better than a soil anomaly. We've got some drill holes that also confirm that there's mineralization there. So, we want to get these holes in. They'll give us some confirmation on those RAB drill holes, and then we'll plan the next phase. But we still think that there is potential for a near surface resource at Oryx Hill that's comparable to Powerline and Airstrip, and maybe Airstrip and Powerline link. We don't have a soil anomaly to connect them, and we only have that one line of holes. But it is, for some reason, it's not going forward. Oh yeah, there we go. It did go. So, there's those RAB drill holes and the diamond drill holes from last year. So we're vectoring in on this one area for now. But, if we get positive results, so on this image, you can see the blue holes where we've returned results. The green dots are ones that we're planning to drill that we feel really fit the model. These pink ones are the ones we've drilled most recently over here around the power line. And then here's Oryx Hill. And you can see we've got quite a few target holes which substantially expand around Oryx Hill, linking into those other grids, which we plan for, later this fall. We're going to adjust these once we get those results back, but we're confident and feel that those would be really good holes to help us understand how wide this mineralization is here at Oryx Hill. So, we'll drill 30,000 meters before we finish this year, and that will give us a lot of information. I'd like to I think having a 3 million ounce resource, if we could potentially get there, would really be transformative for the company. We think our model, though, is broadly applicable, not just to Oryx Hill, Powerline, and Airstrip, but other parts of our property and our other property. And, with ramping up, we're going to have results every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the whole fall and the spring, which, should be pretty strong news flow to convince people that we're on track and bring in, some of the skeptics out there. I think that the fact that this drill pattern was so simple 100-meter space grid leaves a few people going, really? Shouldn't there be really complex geology and narrow high-grade veins? And no, this is a heap leach project. What you want is big bulk tonnage, and that's what we're seeing.
So let me take a step back, and you can go through the slide, and then I'll do the question.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. This was pretty exceeded our expectations when we put out this metallurgy earlier this spring, the 90% from both the oxide and sulfide from bottle rolls. We do have columns which are started now from 2 dedicated holes from Airstrip, which gives you another level of information. We still have lots of metallurgical work to do, and particularly as we move towards the PEA and we drill off Oryx Hill, we will have a very significant metallurgical program. But this was really exciting, like rapid leach kinetics, not refractory, no correlation between the sulfide, the gold occurring as a later phase than the sulfide in the fractures here of this arsenopyrite, and lots of visible gold, but visible fine gold, which is more likely to be leached quicker than really big coarse gold. We'd love to find some of that high grade, though. If we can find some high grade coarse gold, it's a needle in the haystack to look for that, but Bernie Kreft mined some of it. So we know that there's the potential for that. So what was your question there, Robert?
Oh, okay. It's sort of like it goes to the, next slide, the environmental, social, government net slide. Just, talking big picture in the mining industry, COVID has challenged, us all hugely in the last year and a half, especially the mining industry. And we're seeing some real challenges with, labor. And I know in certain parts of Canada, the, First Nations have not wanted companies to come in because, they want to stay safe from COVID. Can you tell us a little bit about the labor shortages and how that's affected you, and maybe what advantages you might have in that area, being from the Yukon and having a big background there, and then talk a little bit about the environmental aspect of things and how you do things right.
Appreciate that. And it's a topic I get asked by more and more investors these days. So starting with the labor shortage, we started in February, which was well in advance of everyone else. So we were able to hire people that didn't want to have to wait till May, June, or July to get a job in the business. So that helped us get a bit of an advantage. And, we're probably a bit thin, particularly for, the first drill program. We wanted to spend money well, but we had some great people. And, we haven't, anybody that we hired in February to May, we haven't lost one of those yet. There were a couple of people that the field personnel, that came from the Yukon, our geotechs, our core cutters. We've always managed to be able to attract people. I give credit to my managers for being good with people on site, which has made a difference and making it a good camp environment. We've also trained people, and we really try to hire local people, First Nations and unfortunately we can't just hire from Mayo, because we do have Alexco and Victoria Gold that are also drawing from the Nutchunayakdun First Nations labor force. So we go a little broader, as do they, throughout the Yukon, and look for First Nations from all parts of the Yukon and even Canada, and really try to make sure that we are, giving people full and fair considerations for their skills, and hire, from as many people from the Yukon as we can. And that was great from a COVID perspective, because we didn't have to bring as many people in from outside. And in terms of, managing COVID with the First Nation, the really important thing has been communication from day one, making sure we communicated our plans, communicated who we were, that we were taking safety as a priority, making sure they understood what we were doing. And then as things changed, communicating. And the First Nations are very busy with a lot of applications and projects. So sometimes you have to be kind of persistent in making sure that you're the driver of communication, and that's been important. And thankfully, I know lots of people in the community, because we've been here and we've been operating. So that really helped. I would hate it to be a new group coming in during COVID, because you can't make those personal connections, and they don't remember your face. And even though you're on a Zoom, they still don't really know you. So it's hard to get trust. And that's really important. Communication and having those lines of communication will be important for future permitting. We were, amending our permit over this last winter, and we made sure to do it well enough in advance that there would be time, because we knew that COVID was going to put time pressures on. So we didn't need it this year, so we weren't coming in the door saying we need this permit like in 2 months. We had really realistic timelines on that, which I think is also important. Given COVID, and understanding the issues, talking to them about what the concerns were, and making sure we're tracking those as we move forward. So when we do go into a higher level of permitting, or permitting more than we have right now, or potential permitting for more optimistic activities there, like building, that really does serve you well if you've listened to what the community wants. Same with environment. We're small, so the little things that we do, like trying to use recyclable cups and reduce water bottles, and water management and sediment production. And we're working with the NND's new partner company, which is a seed company, to maybe start getting native seed stock. We already did a vegetation survey, and getting them to do some demonstration vegetation projects. All of those things, working with the Development Corp, will help us in the future, and help the First Nation have businesses to, benefit from our activity. So it really is a two-way street, and we don't always get it right, but we're working hard to be part of the community, and really do the ESG part right.
Awesome
So
answer. Yeah, no, that was a great answer. So we have 40 people on. So if one of you would like to ask a question, or maybe more than one of you, please type it in the questions box, and I'll try to ask Tara. I have a question that I think is a tough question, Tara. I'm a technical analyst, and I look at a million different charts and all kinds of stuff. And one of the charts I look at is seasonality. And the seasonality for the Yukon is generally not favorable after next month. It's I guess the last couple of decades, companies put out their news, in post Labor Day, and everybody sells on the news, and the stocks kind of just tread water until April, and then everybody buys back in for the summer season. So why should an existing shareholder of Banyan Gold not sell and just come back in April when you're going to put out your updated estimate, the resource? And then question two, somebody who doesn't own Banyan Gold shares, why buy now?
Well, I wish I had some more money right now to be buying in the market. There's all kinds of things on sale, including Banyan. So real key difference for us is, well, and why we don't quite fit in the seasonality of the Yukon is we're ramping up right now. We're not slowing down and then, going to get our one set of results and then, wait till spring and refinance in the spring like many do. We're not financing next year for exploration. We're fully funded. So that pressure on the stock, because people knowing that there'll be a private placement, that's a really significant issue for lots of juniors that finance for one program and then want their results to help raise their share price and then finance. We won't be doing that this year. We are fully funded for next year's exploration program, the commencement of the PEA, that resource update. So that's a key difference. The other key difference is we're waiting for some results, but we're also ramping up to 3 drills, and we plan to drill through to December. So, as we start to get those results back and, put out results every 2 to 3 weeks, and people are able to look at how our project and the mineralization footprint is growing, there'll be a point, I believe, when people start to think, wow, yes, this is what they're rated at in dollars per ounce for their stated resource. But what does a project that has, a 3 million ounce resource that's potentially open pit or, whatever that resource is, what does that get valued at? So as people see our results, and that's why we're putting money and time into these digital resources, and we're going to continue to improve them here so that people can look at it and understand this project and how quickly we're moving it. So we're not going to have that traditional break. We're going to start in February again. We started February 15th this year. I had one of my managers actually wanted to start in January, and last January was fabulous. So that is a possibility. Just depends on how cold it is. But we are unique because of that ability with that infrastructure to really be almost year round, except for a small seasonal break. We're not going to take that foot off the gas like so many other Yukon exploration projects have to because of the lack of infrastructure and their location.
Awesome. So we have a couple questions from the viewers. The first one, I know you can't really say, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Will you sell Banyan or open a mine? Now, I know your husband runs a gold miner that makes a lot of gold every day, and another company is kind of interested in them, So any thoughts on the build the mine, or are you here to present a PEA that is highly economic and get acquired?
I don't think it's quite as black and white as that. I love what I'm doing at Banyan. I think we're adding lots of value. But I'm also a really big shareholder. I have a lot of money invested. So I want to make the best decision to get the most out of my capital, because I don't do this for a day job. I really want to add value and move this project along. Do we have the skill set to do that? Absolutely. So I think both options are available. I think that actually adds value for shareholders in that we have the capability to move it all along through a PEA, pre-feasibility study, permitting, and building. You supplement and strengthen, build your management team to do that, if that's the right option. But if the right option comes along with a premium for shareholders, you're going to have to consider that. And, that's always a concern when you have entrenched management that really wants to build it. And versus, I'm going to consider a real offer. So that gives us optionality. If you're one of the companies that's sitting around waiting to get bought out, everybody in the market knows that, and that's an overhang on your price. We've seen that in numerous stories. So, I like to keep that optionality open, and we'll continue to advance this and see what the market brings and what opportunities come as we get it down the pipeline.
And I'm interested to hear your so that was a great answer, but I'm interested to hear your answer to this question. Where do you see the share price in a few years?
Higher.
Higher.
No, it's price of gold is, of course, something that everybody affects every junior mining company. My personal opinion is that we're in for a strong gold market, and that companies that show they have good projects that are potentially developable. That's the other part is we're starting our baseline environmental work. We actually started at the beginning of this year, and we're doing a gap analysis after being able to access the permitting data from Alexco and Victoria Gold, which is a huge advantage for us. So we're doing that. We like to think that we're starting and working with the community, which will help us advance this project more rapidly than others. We know the permitting process. I spent 12 years on the environmental assessment board, so we're already looking at timelines for that and what it might take, and getting ready for the PEA. And I'll show you another slide. We're starting to work on what this might look as a standalone mine, because lots of people say, "Oh, Victoria Gold's a big shareholder. That's your only option is they're going to probably acquire you." Well, we add a lot of value if we can get people start thinking about this as a standalone project, which is where I get that 3 million ounce threshold to be a standalone project. But envisioning what it might look like to be a mine, I think, is an important part of thinking about options. And it's part of what you do as you go in a PEA. You start to think about conceptually what it looks like. So, and how that happens. So, we're making, doing a lot of work behind the scenes, which will add a lot of value for shareholders as we're able to roll it out, and should help us to do that PEA faster than others as well.
There's another question about, are there any other, kinds of, metals? Like, is there silver? Is there copper? Is there anything else that could add to the value of the, resource, there at Aurmac?
We have some silver prospects on the property, particularly in the eastern end. We do see near airstrip some, small veins of Keno Hill silver style silver. We didn't include any of that in the resource, and we haven't chased it at this point. We might have the opportunity to look at some of that, and when we get some downtime to look at the geology again, and we'll evaluate some of those options. But we just see the value add by growing Powerline, growing up Oryx Hill, really is where we can add the most for shareholders. And yes, there's prospects for particularly silver, maybe some other metals as well, but that's not going to be our focus right now. We really want to drive towards that, the bigger resources we can get for that update, and then be able to show some economics after that, so people understand the potential of this property. We do have our second project, or our adjacent area, the Nitra property. We've been doing some work on that. It also is pretty interesting. We think it looks very similar to Powerline. We've done a pretty extensive soil sample program out here this year. Part of the permitting that we were doing was getting it ready so we could drill out here. Likely will be next year when we get drilling out there. But, that's probably our next target beyond, our Aurmac proper to go after, to add value for shareholders, because it's really something that we think our geological model fits. So, but there are some other lead and zinc anomalies on that property as well. So, this new VR tour is going to bring all of our information together. Our videos will be in here so that, people will have one hub that they can go to look at the presentation, see those tours, the digital models.
Yeah, you read my mind there, talking about the new, those new claims, that you acquired to the west. So everybody asks about assays. Of course, this is something that all junior mining investors lose patience with. It seems like every year it's the same story. I know you've been putting out, results 4, 5, 6 holes at a time every few weeks. What are the labs telling you right now? Is it slowing down? Do you think that you'll still have news out every 3 weeks now?
I do think we will. I actually think it'll get better, and I'd like to be putting out more than just 5 holes at a time. Once we get 3 drills turning and start getting results back from that, we'll be able to do that. So at the beginning of the year, lab times were actually pretty good. We were getting 20-day turnarounds. Then once everybody else started getting their samples in the lab, it went out to about 35 and is pushing that even now. And that's, for us, it's not going to make that much a difference. We're not depending on it to finance this fall. We're not. So we need it for some targeting, but we've got enough targets to be able to drill without it. I think that we're ramping up at just the right time. Everybody else is going to be finishing taking their samples. So the prep labs will have people available again. They should clear the backlog in the analytical and the QA/QC areas, which both of those are also bottlenecks if you don't have the room at the lab where the ICP units are, or the people to check the results, because that's also with the large volumes. So both of those are bottlenecks, but they should clear by the time we get our next batch of significant batches of samples into the lab.
All right, I want to wrap up with two more questions. The first one is, do you see somebody with a big bank account coming in and acquiring the whole, district, taking all the big companies, including Banyan, in the Mayo, area? Do you foresee that as feasible or likely, quote unquote, or is it just not going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I'm not privy to the boardrooms of the people with that much money and the big mining companies that might want to do that. But, I do know that the Mayo Mining District is a district. It's going to produce metal for a long time. What we are finding right next to a highway is likely not unique. There's likely other discoveries still to be made. I think the infrastructure advantage and location and permittability is important when anybody's looking at projects in the Mayo District, because there are some that have had permitting challenges when you're more remote. But it'd have to be a pretty forward-looking group. But I don't know if that group's out there at this time or not. But it's a good dream.
It's a good dream, yeah. And I think that the way I view Banyan as a shareholder and as an investor is, in the world of junior gold mining, it's one of the low risk plays. If you can say that about a junior gold miner that has a cash burn rate of whatever it is per month and doesn't generate revenues, Banyan is about as good as it gets in terms of relatively low downside, because it has the, resources that are growing. It has a very solid foundation, and it makes a lot of sense to add on to a larger company at a later date, obviously. And you have so many catalysts lined up. And the main risk I see as an investor in Banyan would be if the gold price were to drop substantially. If gold were to let's say drop under 1,600 or under 1,500, it'd obviously be very negative for Banyan, because Banyan is so leveraged to the gold price. If you have a gold price outlook of $2,000 plus 12 to 24 months out, Banyan is almost like a no-brainer, because I have such confidence in your management and the value of the Aurmac project in this area of the Yukon, and I just see you're going to knock down these milestones over the next year, and the risk of the project is going to drop substantially, which is going to make it more attractive to larger investors and potentially even larger, mining firms. So I just see the main risk from my standpoint is a gold price downturn, which is the sector entirely. So it's no different than any other company, and the re-rate potential is quite substantial, because right now, even though you got a pop in your share price here this afternoon, it's still 67 million market cap in Canada. If we are talking 3 million ounces, let's say a year or so from now, putting $50 an ounce on those ounces is quite reasonable. So you have a minimum double here if the share count stays the same. And what you're putting out in this presentation is you don't need to raise any more money until the end of next year. So that gives substantial runway, and forget about seasonality. Banyan's going to keep knocking down these milestones, and it's heavily leveraged to gold price upside. So why don't you wrap up, Tara, with what are the milestones investors can expect you to achieve, and give us some sort of as good a timeline as you possibly can for when we can expect those milestones.
So, near-term catalysts are those Oryx Hill drill results, completion of our power line drill results, and then we'll have our 3 drills turning and continuously pumping out or getting samples into the lab, which will give us results well into 2022. We will update the resource. We're aiming for Q2 2022, so we have time for those lab delays and to incorporate them into the resource. It's a natural break. And then, a future update of the resource could include the 2022 drilling, of which we're planning 30,000 meters. After we do the resource update, we'll commence the PEA. We're doing some of the baseline work for that already, as well as the metallurgy and the baseline environmental for permitting. You need 3 years of permitting data, and we've already got 1 full year in, so gives us that baseline. I think that'll bring a lot of catalysts for our shareholders and some pretty exciting news flow. And not financing, having to finance for either this year or that PEA or any of the drill program we plan for next year is a huge advantage for us. And we're also going to work hard to invest money well into marketing and communications with the people that are going to be most interested in Banyan, which can really help drive the share price. So building our team with the right people, we can take the time because we're financed to hire the right people for the jobs that we have. You'll see us come out with things like conceptual permitting timelines over the next few months, along with a lot of the other key things that we'll need for the next 2 years. So a lot of stuff in process behind the scenes right now, which will be, driving us and really adding value for shareholders. And not having to worry about the data. I'm really pleased our share price is up. I made a pretty significant investment in Banyan because I looked out there and you think about risk and all the other projects and I think this one is the one where I put my money because I'm pretty strongly believe in what we have. And back to your economic analysis, remember our resource was at $1,500. Remember Victoria Gold's PEA, our feasibility study, had them making money at $1,250 gold. So these big bulk tonnage projects can be economic at much lower gold prices. I don't believe we're going there, but and I think a lot of our major companies will continue to be looking for gold projects, even if that eventuality was a slightly lower price. But so I think it's an exciting story, and we're going to grow and add a lot of value here going through the fall and through 2022.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for your time, Tara. I really appreciated the presentation. I learned a few things even, and I wish Banyan Gold the very best in the year ahead.
Thank you, Robert. Really appreciate your time. And for everybody who tuned in today, thank you for joining us, and feel free to reach out if you have questions. And for all of you who are shareholders, thank you for your support. And we hope to deliver on that, your investment in Banyan.